HBL Hair Care, healthy ingredients for healthy hair. Enhance health, reveal natural beauty, and give new life to your hair. Experience the holistic difference of HBL Hair Care.
Hi, welcome to North County Voice. We have as our guest today Chuck Lowery, Oceanside City Council person. Chuck, thanks for joining us on North County Voice.
Sure. Happy to be here today, John. Deputy Mayor.
And Deputy Mayor and first alternate to Sandag. Anything else?
You know, a lot of boards I'm on.
Outstanding guy,
No,
well-dressed,
no.
we got a whole list
Please.
of stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, so you and the council just completed passing a budget. So how would you characterize it? Are you happy with where the money's going?
I am happy with where the money's going, and I wish we had more. And the reason is we had to gel the budget down to our highest priority items, even though it was a lot of money. But we don't have excess money. Other local cities have a lot of money they can spend when they want to spend it on a project. The city of Oceanside has to plan years in advance to spend on larger projects, whether that's a pool complex or anything. We have to really plan it ahead. Beach sand, we're ready for that.
Is what's your number one that you would spend on? Is it the pool if you had additional funds?
No, I think we have more demanding needs, and those needs would be for to better address homelessness in the community, because that's an issue that impacts everybody. The entire community is impacted by homelessness. And we are working currently with our city staff to move ahead food salvaging operations so that we can create meals for people who need food rather than putting it into the landfill. So that's something that our Water Utilities Department is actually working on through the Green Oceanside initiative. And we want to salvage food and make that into meals and redistribute those meals. The food is just maybe has a little bruise on it or something like that, but it's fine food. Otherwise, it would be going to the landfill.
I do want to get to the second alternate title there, the Sandag issue. But first, let's staying within the city of Oceanside. We had a little conversation here, and you brought up the issue that the general plan is getting a little aged in some areas.
Yes, the Oceanside's general plan is sort of the umbrella that the whole city operates under as far as regulations and the future are concerned. And we have elements of our general plan that are over 30 years old. 30 years ago, we did not have the needs that we have now. We have different infrastructure needs, we have different zoning requirements, we have different traffic on the road, we have different water situation. So we have to consider all of those things proactively rather than reactively. So currently, if we have an issue around something with a certain development project or a large home makeover, those issues wind up at the city council because our general plan is not currently up to date. So I'm hoping that with the support of other council members, we can move that forward into our budget, but it's an expensive proposition. And it does kind of dovetail with our climate action plan that we have to do as a city. So we have to gather a lot of data about what our climate impacts are as a city, and that includes the traffic that goes through town, every building that we have, the existing roads, how we repair and maintain those roads. All of that has to be cataloged and inventoried, and currently our staff is working on creating the inventory so we can put that into our general plan update.
Does the general plan update require action? Are there no sunset clauses in it where there's an automatic review date of some sort?
No, nothing.
Really?
There's no times up on this document dates. There are no dates. We, as it's rolled on, and as I've met with Councilmember Kern, we've discussed the general plan updates because he's felt that we really need to do it, but the city has not put the sort of political willpower into it. Currently, we have residents of Oceanside who are lobbying us to move forward with it because it would make us be in more compliance as a city with state and federal requirements.
Would you say that is the climate action plan the most out of date, or could you characterize something as the most out of date in there?
There isn't one. We don't have a climate
There
action
isn't
plan.
one, so that would be the most out of date.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's number 2 on the list?
Some of the zoning variables that we have as far as how tall you can build a building along the beach corridor, or how much you can cover your property with the structure and leave how much space for sidewalk, driveway apron, those kinds of things. Those are constantly coming up to Planning Commission, and we routinely have to make decisions at the City Council. Currently, the Planning Commission understands that the City Council will generally support decisions that they make. That was not the case before I was elected in 2014. At that time, the Planning Commission expected that if they made a decision that was negative about any kind of project, the City Council would overrule them or override their decision. And currently, that's not the case. So we hope to support the work that the volunteer residents who form our Planning Commission do, so that when they make decisions and they give them to us to review, we just say, great decision. Unless there's an issue with it, then we look into it.
So it's interesting, sort of an inside baseball thing, that you probably wouldn't vote or not vote for someone because of when they want to review the general plan, but if there's not some push behind to get this done, you're going to get nickeled and dimed along the way, and the whole process gums up in a way.
Yes, so Councilmember Kern and I we're both not up for election right now. Neither of us is up for election, so we're going forward we're actually just kind of massaging staff gently to see can you move us forward with this, because there's a lot of work we can do that doesn't cost a lot of money. We have dedicated some money to start the project, but we haven't dedicated, it's a multiple millions of dollars project. It's so in depth, it's amazing. When they say it's going to cost $9 or $10 million, I'm just, why? And there are ways that we can get around that. To answer that question of why, we can start working from within the staff that we have now to create it, because we will have to hire outside agencies to help us with it, because the expertise for the laws are greater than our in-house expertise currently.
What period of time do you anticipate this taking? Not to get, well, first of all, when do you think you'll be able to initiate this review? Do you have a target date?
You know, my target date on it is just, let's get started on it as soon as possible. We don't have to actually invest the big money in it. Like I mentioned a second ago, if we can just start moving it forward, that's going to be what creates our staff momentum. To kind of interject here, our City Council is routinely changing every 2 years. We have an election, so there's potential for some change. With our staff, we have staff members who have been with the city for 25 or 35 years. And the city staff, those are the people who bring forward projects. So the council gives them direction, and that creates a regulation, and then the staff works on that regulation and moves it forward. If the council changes abruptly and we lose, if staff loses support of the council for big projects like the general plan update, then we've wasted a lot of time and money. So I hope that we can just gently move it forward with the council support that we have right now, and hope that the next version of the council, whatever that is, decides to support it as well.
Let's talk about that, whatever it is, comment. There are, Jerry Kern, yourself, you're not running, but there are 2 open seats. Are you going to be active in that election in any way in terms of endorsing? For example?
Several people have asked me to endorse them, and I told them not until I see who the whole slate is of people who want to run, not a slate, the whole group of people who want to run. And I'm very likely to be actively going out, canvassing, knocking on doors, asking people to vote for whoever the candidates are who I support. And I'm supporting the re-election of our city clerk, Zach Beck, so far, and that's all. Oh, I've worked with another candidate, Linda Gonzalez, and she is new to the political game, but very involved in our school systems. So she's lived in the area for a long time, but her job was in Los Angeles working with school districts up there. So I like that she has an inbred sort of way of working collaboratively with other people. And if you're in a school district, you have to collaborate with other people. Otherwise, nothing gets done. And that's what I found on the city council. Currently, there is not a lot of collaboration. And if we can move things forward because we want to move things forward, that would be great, instead of reacting to whatever state or federal laws come down, tell us we have to comply with their unfunded mandates.
Okay. Let's go to Sandag as first alternate. Did you attend the last meeting, by the way, as first alternate?
No.
But certainly you are up to speed on the issues going on there. There's a half-cent tax. Can you give us an outbrief on that?
Sure. Sandag is the San Diego Association of Governments. It's primarily a group of the mayors plus some other agencies. And we have, I believe, 21 members, but the votes are based upon population. So our mayor represents Oceanside, which is the largest city in North County, and we have a weighted vote of 5. So when in Sandag, when one of Oceanside's voting members makes a decision, we represent 5 votes. So that can really throw a decision one way or the other, whether or not Oceanside supports or opposes something. So Sandag is the big gorilla in the room for the whole county. They are the ones who are behind how we spend money on freeways, how we spend it on transit, how we spend it on sidewalks, bike paths, the configuration of our highways, that not necessarily surface streets, but they have a hand in that too. So we as a city have gone to Sandag and asked them to help us fund our railroad safety crossing enhancements, railroad crossing safety enhancements, and we have set up money to do they're calling it a quiet zone for the 5 downtown or coastal strip railroad crossings. So that's a big deal. But we're getting that money from Sandag. We would get the money anyway over time. So we're getting sort of a loan from them. And currently, Sandag is promoting a 1/2 cent sales tax to fund their 30-year build-out plan. And the idea of doing that without specifically stating in their proposal, this is a proposition that they want to put on the November 2016 ballot, without specifying exactly what they want to spend the money on and how they will spend that money and over what period of time, they have created a lot of opposition. And I personally oppose it because as a member of the North County Transit District Board, I learned that we are entitled to 30% of that money, and they're only going to give us like 10 or 11% of it, which means that Oceanside is literally getting the short end of the stick. And we will have to deal with sort of a whatever we get, something's better than nothing, and that's not the case. We need to get what we deserve based on our population and the population who puts money into their tax base at Sandag. I'm not very happy about that relationship currently.
I'm torn between digging into that further and talking about something that I do think we only have about a minute left. And I'd really like you to talk about your social media outreach. I understand that staying in touch with the voting base is critically important for an elected official.
Yeah.
And you're using Facebook.
Yes, I, as a local, was using Facebook before I was elected. And once I was elected, we set up a second Facebook page that's just my city council page. So I get a lot of input from the public on both of those pages, primarily my personal one, because I have something like 1,400 friends, which isn't very many compared to, a rock star, but it's still a lot for just a person who's on a small town city council. So I get a lot of questions that people post there, or they send me as private messages, and if the question gets beyond what I can answer, I ask them to send it to my city email address, and then it becomes official, and then I can forward it to staff. And as far as Facebook is concerned, and Twitter and anything else that we do, we're on both of those social media. We don't typically respond to those with the definitive, this is the City of Oceanside conversation, but when it goes into the City of Oceanside, that's what we have.
Wow, fascinating. Well, thanks for bringing us into the current millennium with that. Chuck, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us on North County Voice. Thanks for the information.
Yeah, time goes really fast here.
It does. Thanks for watching this segment. After a short break, we will be back with Oceanside City Council person Jerry Kern.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hi, welcome to this edition of North County Voice. We have with us today Oceanside City Council member Jerry Kern. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Well, it's budget time, and you've got a budget. You have passed a budget along with your colleagues. What's your opinion of it?
It's good. It's a good budget. It's about $137 million general fund. Our increment over our revenue over expenses is about $1.2 million over last year. We had about $4 million in requests, so we had to make some priorities. We're adding some ambulance, we're adding some police officers, and then the rest of the general fund budget. We're coming out of this recession slowly. We're not roaring back like in some other areas, but we are slowly getting out of this recession. When I first got on the council in 2006, our general fund budget was about $129 million. This year it's going to be about 137. So in 10 years, that's not much growth. I mean, we're just kind of holding our own right now. But if you looked over the last 10 years, it was a big dip, and now we're finally coming back. So I feel really optimistic about what we're going to do in the future.
Is there something that you would immediately add if there was a good upside to revenue? Was there one project or one thing out there that it hurt you to cut?
Well, the idea that to keep up with public safety, what I said before, we're going to have 1,000 more people that live downtown in the next 3 years. The apartments going in, the parking structure, the hotels. So we need to stay on top of the public safety. That's the operational side, that we make sure we keep up with fire and police and to service those people that are living down there. On the big issue of capital improvements is obviously the swimming pool. The idea that we've been talking about that for the last few years, that is on track. We are doing all the studies, starting the environmental work, those type of things about adding the swimming pool behind the senior center on El Corazon.
Do you have a projected completion date in mind, or is it too early to ask that?
It's probably too early. I would hope between the next 3 to 5 years that gets done. We have to accumulate the money, we're looking for grants. It's probably about a $17 million project, and we just don't have that amount of money just sitting waiting to build a pool. So part of it we're going to finance by redoing the bonds that for City Hall. When City Hall was built in 1988, it was financed with bonds. Those bonds are actually being paid off. So we'll have capacity to go out and rebond to pay for a pool.
Part of the budget top line is just driven by national economics and regional, Western region, for example. But part of it is the perception or not that Oceanside is a good place to live and do business. Do you think Oceanside has improved that image over the last few years, or?
Tremendously. We really improved tremendously. The idea that we have Ocean Ranch with the FedEx building, Gilead, Genentech, those larger employers are there. We're adding small brew pub type retail, some retail, general retail coming in. So generally we are doing really, really well in that area. Leslie Gall in Visit Oceanside has done a great job advertising Oceanside, so we have a lot more tourist-oriented development going in downtown and a lot more tourists coming on the weekends. And Coast Highway is really busy, during the weekend. I mean, so you just go down there and the pubs are busy, the restaurants are busy. So I think we are doing really, really well. And I think I project that happening more and more and continuing for the next few years.
You mentioned earlier about downtown growth, which was interesting because a lot of people think the growth automatically means it used to be trees and now it's 100 people. But cities can grow organically without having a big footprint. But there is a footprint issue going on, and that's the Mission San Luis Rey area. That would be a significant change. And there's some opposition to it. What's your position on it?
Well, actually, it's approved. The Via Astoria project is land that used to be owned by the Diocese of San Diego. It actually was reserved for the high school. There's supposed to be a new Catholic high school in North County. But when they built Cathedral Catholic, there was no need for that land anymore by the diocese, and there were some other things that they had to clear up. So they sold that land to a developer. Now, they came in, and the project's a really nice project. It's like 4 different housing types. There's an affordable housing component, small condos, garden condos, and single-family homes. We are 100,000 housing units short in San Diego County. We need a place for our workforce to live. So unless we start building some of these affordable units or places for people to live, we're going to lose that workforce. People are going to move further and further out. And that's the one thing we don't want to do environmentally. So the rebuilding of downtown, adding the apartments and things like that, would really be helpful because it would give place for people to live.
Of that 100,000, what do you think Oceanside's share is of that?
I would probably say about 10, 12,000. I mean, it's a large county. That might be a little bit high, but Via Astoria is about 318 units. Pacific Ridge was on the corner of Old Grove and College is about another 320 units. Then we're having the units downtown, the 66 apartments, another 120 online with the same developer. And then we're building 54 wrapped around our parking structure downtown, and then there's a couple other hotel residential units coming in. So, and that doesn't count all the little 2 and 3 and 4 units that are coming in different places.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier, in a positive sense, the Coast Highway is crowded on the weekends, and part of that reason is a pilot project for bike lane. Yeah. How would you characterize that? Do you think it's a success to where we should do more of it, or what?
I think it's a success right now. I like to get through summer before I make my full decision, but right now, during the week, it is not bad. I mean, it actually goes pretty smoothly. And with the test of the pilot project, then we may do the whole Coast Highway that way. Yeah, the idea that I think we're changing our dynamic here, changing our thinking. That usually traffic was, well, let's get the traffic through as quickly as possible. Now, if you have a business, you want traffic to slow down. You want traffic to see your business. So the idea that just using Coast Highway as a cut through for people to come off of I-5, I think people don't want that anymore. So this is traditionally the downtown. When I was a kid, you went downtown to be downtown. It was a destination. I think we need to change Coast Highway into a destination and not just someplace you drive through. So having the bicycle friendly, pedestrian friendly, you drive your car down there and park it. So we're building a parking structure to get out and shop downtown. So we're not using it as a highway anymore. We're using it as our main street.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach. And of course, SANDAG is supportive with some decent funding in terms of bike lanes. So bikes are have a bigger shot at being regional transportation rather than purely just local.
I'm not buying into the bikes are going to be a transportation mode. I think bikes are more of a recreational thing, because on the weekend the bicycle lanes get really used. People actually bicycle from Orange County down to San Diego. During the week you don't see a lot of that. You do see some local people get on their bike and ride down to the store or ride down to the brew pub or something like that, but it's not something that you see a lot of people commuting to work on bicycles. So having it, we're bicycle friendly, but I just think we're a ways away from doing that. And part of the reason is we talked about the housing. The idea that we keep pushing housing further and further out, then people need their cars to get to work. So if we rebuild downtown and have people that live downtown can actually walk downtown and actually work downtown, they can walk to work. They can ride their bicycle to work. But if you live 4 or 5 miles out and you wear a coat and tie, it's, riding a bicycle to work just doesn't help you.
I think this is the only job I have where I wear a coat and tie. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you bicycle today. But that's the other thing, you know,
Yeah.
the idea that you still need cars, because you might bicycle 2 days a week to work, but you need that car if you're going to come to work and then you have an appointment down in San Diego or have to go to Orange County for an appointment. And a lot of people are very mobile that way. You don't have a lot of factory work anymore, where you go and you stay in one place and work all day, then get in your car and go home. A lot of people are salespeople, and they're very mobile, and they go out and they need their car during the day.
It's California. Got to have a car.
Yeah.
Let's talk about politics a little bit. Former colleague of yours, Rocky Chavez, changed his plans, and his intended run for the U.S. Senate didn't happen, so he's running for his assembly seat, which sort of had an impact on you.
Yeah. I was running for the assembly because Rocky wasn't running, you know, and so, but then he changed his mind, and it's very difficult to run against the incumbent. I probably wouldn't have got the support of the party. It's very difficult to raise money against the incumbent, so I just backed out. Myself and Phil Graham, who was also running against me from Minnesota Units, just backed out. So, and Rocky's running unopposed now. So, you know, it's the name of the game. You know, it happens. I'm not termed out. I'm on the city council to 2018, so there's not like it was a do or die thing for me. So I'm sitting back waiting to see what the options are in the next couple years.
So then it's not a change in your long-term interest, it's just this particular opportunity doesn't make sense right now?
This opportunity doesn't make sense right now. You know, 2018, I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do. That'll be 12 years on the council. I'm not a fan of term limits, but you know, usually 12 years is enough. I mean, the idea that I have a lot of ideas. Sometimes they're good ones and sometimes they're not, but I think sometimes you need fresh ones. Okay. So to get somebody else there with some fresh ideas to move forward.
What do you do to get fresh ideas? So it's not just your thoughts, but the thoughts of the community.
Well, I'm pretty engaged in the community. I probably to the more than some of my other colleagues. The idea that I work with the NAACP on some projects. I'm working with the Museum of Art on some projects. I go out to community meetings. I have a community meeting this Friday about the pier issue with the OPD and Public Works and the fishermen out there and some of the community members out there. Community engagement panel, you had David Victor on,
yes.
and he's the chairman of the committee I'm on. So on a regional basis, I'm engaged that way. And then a lot of people just contact me. You know, that's the one good thing about being on the council for a long time. People know your phone number and people will call you and people get comfortable talking to you. So I always have this saying that you go to the grocery store or the restaurant and people think that I'm entitled to their opinion. So the idea that they will, you know, so they're not shy about sharing that with me.
Well, we've got about a minute left, and still on the subject of politics, there's going to be 2 open seats. Yours isn't one of them. Are you going to endorse or in any way be active in who sits in those seats?
Well, I'm going to endorse Jack. Jack Feller, it's been a longtime friend of mine. I was actually his first campaign manager about 15 years ago. So, and Jack's done a good job for the council. I mean, the idea on there, he's probably the only one that I would, right at the present time, endorse. How active I support him, I don't know yet. Again, we'll wait until August and see what's out there. I mean, the filing period's not over till August, so we just hear speculation. You know, it's the hot stove league right now. That you know, somebody's running, 2 days later they're not running, 3 days later they are running. So right now, Jack is the only one I know that I would help or support that is running.
Of the open issues, you talked about, you know, some open issues, some stuff still to be done. You're not looking to get away from this job. We have just a little bit of time left, but what's the big open issue you'd like to see get resolved?
I would like to get the pool built. And the other thing that I think that we really need to do on a long-term basis is work on our recycled water program. We are changing La Salina into a pump station, moving the wastewater back to San Luis Rey, treating it and putting it back in the aquifer for the indirect potable reuse. I think for the city of Oceanside, our goal, council goal by 2030 is to be 50% water independent.
Okay, we'll end on that, and that's a noble goal.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, thanks for joining us on North County Voice. Thank you for watching North County Voice, and this episode and all other shows on KOCT are available as video on demand at koct.org.
HBL Hair Care, healthy ingredients for healthy hair. Enhance health, reveal natural beauty, and give new life to your hair. Experience the holistic difference of HBL Hair Care.